episode 23 of Wowhead Weekly. Wowhead Weekly is sponsored by Full Sail University. If you've ever considered working behind the scenes to create video games, Full Sail University offers programs that can prepare you for a future in the industry. Whether you're interested in coding, art, producing, or mobile game development, there's a game degree program at Full Sail University that can teach you the tools, technology, and workflow used by today's studios. Full Sail University has offered game programs for more than a decade, and graduates have worked on titles such as Grand Theft Auto, the Call of Duty series, Assassin's Creed, and many more. Full Sail students receive a laptop along with game industry software at a deep institutional discount, and Full Sail University also offers a variety of campus and online degrees in fields related to the entertainment and media industry. You can visit fullsail.edu/wowweekly to learn more. All right, we have had a ton of PTR builds and lots of sort of small little bits of news to talk to you about this week. So without further ado, let me introduce to you my co-host and site manager extraordinaire. It's Perculia. How are you doing this week, Perk? Busy and tired, I don't doubt.
Yep, 2 PTR builds and, like you said, lots of little news at all hours.
Yeah, it's been a funny sort of week for news. Like, we haven't had any real, like, oh my god, this is going to change the landscape of the game kind of news. We've had lots of sort of smaller bits which all add up to...
Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
All sorts of little things.
Exactly, yeah. So that's actually one of the first things we're going to talk about this week is kind of the in my opinion, the biggest news of the week is that the much discussed Twitter integration is actually in the PTR right now. So you were able to test it, weren't you?
Yeah, we jumped onto the PTR as soon as it was up earlier in the week. And so basically how it works is that you can enable or disable your Twitter account to be associated with your WoW account if you go to Interface Social, and then there is an enable Twitter option. Right,
so then that's what we're kind of seeing here, isn't it? So you're logging into Twitter via WoW, effectively. That's what you're doing.
Exactly. And you can turn that off anytime.
Right, so there's no obligation to actually sort of keep that running all of the time. Like, you're not stuck with it, you're not, having to maintain that association. If you want to decide to change it at any point, you can. And I don't think there's an additional security risk to this, because this is no different than allowing TweetDeck to use your Twitter or
very
insert other app.
What you've seen,
Yeah, exactly, like insert other app here. So it doesn't necessarily have any real sort of security risks or anything like that. And once you've got the accounts linked, then you can do various things like share things from directly in the game.
Yeah, exactly. So there are a few ways that you can share things in game. If you complete an achievement or you loot an item, your window will have this little W next to it, your chat window, and you click on it, and that can bring up a Twitter UI being like, hey, do you want to tweet this achievement? Here's a pre-made sentence being like, I just got X achievement, or I just looted this item. Here's a link to Battle.net.
Okay, cool.
So that's one way you can do it, or you can just do /share. And that will bring up a window with options to tweet an achievement, an item, anything, or you can pull up your last screenshot and crop it and tweet out the screenshot from in-game as well.
Okay, and the cropping, we've got actually a little image of that here, so that actually allows you to take sections, and we've got Perk's Night Elf selfie here. It allows you to take sections of the screenshot and actually edit those down to share them on social media. I mean, it's a pretty cool thing. So this is something which is actually, surprisingly controversial, I would say. I mean, I guess for me, the issue which I have with it is I don't really see a ton of instances when I'm going to prefer to use this over the existing methods I have for sharing things on Twitter. Anyone who follows me on Twitter will know that I share an awful lot of World of Warcraft stuff on Twitter, and I'm not exactly backwards about coming forwards with screenshots of things like my blood elf and her missing legs or whatever. But to me, it just sort of seems like it's not something that I'm going to use a ton over Alt-Tab and the various screenshot sharing methods I have. I use Push for it, or I just take the screenshots out of my screenshot folder and dump those on Twitter. Do you see yourself using it, Perk?
I mean, I'm in the same boat as you are. There are some limitations that make me not really inclined to use this. For example, you can only use your last screenshot to tweet in game, and when I tweet things, I'll take a bunch of screenshots trying to find the best angle or a particular animation, and I can't pull that stuff up in game. And another thing is that for things like items and especially achievements, if I'm talking about something on the PTR, I'd like to link to the Wowhead page for that because
Right.
it generally has like extra data, but you can't do that in game, and achievements don't even have a BattleNet page, so you just have like a name and a picture, I think.
Right, yeah, so that's not quite as useful, really, where you're getting just that very lower level of detail. Like, and I'm not saying that Wowhead is 100 million times better than the Battle.net website, but just by merit of our users and our comments on the site,
Yeah,
like, we have a lot
model
of stuff
viewers,
there.
stuff like that.
Exactly, there's a lot of cool stuff on Wowhead, which, unfortunately, they just don't have right now on Battle.net. So would it allow you to manually type in a link?
I think it could, but if I'm alt-tabbing already, then
Yeah. It's kind
I
of
might as
that at
well.
that point you've already moved away from the game, which kind of defeats the object of the exercise of the whole system. So I agree, it's certainly an interesting one. Like I don't personally agree with all the people who are really, really sort of angry about it and feel like this is, you know, all the eternal slippery slope arguments that Blizzard gets whenever they introduce something new to the game and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I don't
Yeah,
really
I mean, there's
buy
no
that.
incentive to do it. There's no if you tweet 50 times you get a mount.
Yeah.
That would be really annoying. If there
That would be
was,
really annoying. Yeah, that would definitely be really annoying.
but
And a lot of
I
people
can
don't use Twitter.
I mean, I can see how they're trying to increase Twitter involvement because in the past in Warlords, they had some devs that were active there. There are a lot of WoW users that are on Twitter. Twitter is great for sites like Wowhead.
Yeah.
So if you just want to start off and you're like, hey, I got this cool item in my raid, I can share this easily. That's cool. If there's a bug report, you could say, hey, here's the actual picture of my character looking bizarre in game, and it could help Blizzard CS. So I can see
Yeah,
those
definitely.
benefits.
And from a very cynical side, it will no doubt increase their hashtag Warcraft representation on Twitter.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's like, and it doesn't automatically attach like if you want to go in there and edit out stuff from the automated achievements, you can totally do that.
Yeah.
Yes, you can make it be hashtag League of Legends if you really want to. There's no obligation to put that in there. So yeah, I personally, like, I don't particularly have a problem with it. I don't hate it. I'm not like angry about it. I just don't see myself using it very much.
Yeah, I also don't think it's taken a ton of dev time.
No, I shouldn't
They
think
never
so.
break down how many hours it takes, but if it's a simple thing that they can add in and it'll get some use out of it, then
Yeah, why not?
makes
And I
sense,
mean,
yeah.
it's sort of, to me, like, it's also obviously the case, like, a lot of the times when we've tweeted about it on our own Wowhead Twitter, we've had a lot of people saying, oh my god, what should they have done instead? Oh my god, monks are still unbalanced, or like priests still need this, or
Why
and
is
here
there
they
the
are
selfie
doing
camera?
Yeah, why is there a selfie camera? And like instead of balancing druids, they're doing this. It's like, no.
Yeah, that's
No,
two different people teams.
There's a lot of people who work at Blizzard. The person who built the Twitter UI interface OAuth linking thingy is not the same person who deals with your monk. It's just not. I'm sorry, it's just not. So that is kind of a fallacy, and it's certainly not the same people who build encounters. It's going to be the UI team. And sure, there may be other UI modifications that you feel like you would have preferred. But there's a lot of UI changes coming in this build.
The colorblind mode.
Yeah, the
there's
colorblind
death recap,
mode.
There's lots of good things.
Yeah, there's a ton of good stuff. There was actually a set of patch notes just not yesterday, but the day before, which actually went through a ton of good UI changes that are coming in the next patch. So I think that there's a lot of good stuff that's been going on that we don't really need to sort of get all up in arms about the UI team building in one little Twitter sharing thing. But anyhow, moving on from there, we've actually had a new mount tease this week. So it's kind of, I'm going to show you a picture of it. We're getting all high tech here on a Wowhead Weekly because I've been actually pulling pictures into things. Look, there it is. It's very pretty.
Yeah, it's very glowy. I like it.
It is. I like it too. So it kind of, it sort of, we've been speculating as people do. It looks a little, like the glowy bits almost remind me of like the Draenor, like the, I don't know what it's called, the glowy rune type thing that, I'm so good at lore. I'm so good at WoW lore. The Draenor dude.
It Inscription or Khadgar.
Oh yeah, like who's the Draenor guy who, spoilers, gives the thing to Irel? What's his name?
Velen, Prophet
Velen. There we go. My brain was going Murad. I'm like, no, it's not Murad. It's someone else. But anyway, it kind of reminds me of that with the glowy symbols. Like that sort of look to it.
I was also thinking Heroes of the Storm because it's very purple and like the Nexus runes everywhere.
Yeah,
like,
that's definitely
you see
true.
the background and character select.
Yeah,
So,
yep, I can see that for sure. So obviously the question with any new mount is where do we think it's going to come from? So the Heroes of the Storm thing, like could that be a Hearthsteed style thing, do you think? Like go into Heroes of the Storm and win a game and you'll get this mount? Or 3 games?
Yeah, I was thinking that, although we also have a data mine Stormcrow mount where people are like, oh, this must be it because it's called Storm for Heroes of the Storm. But I think it could be related, or maybe like a special version of the Founders Pack if you for people who play
Oh
WoW.
yeah, my God, can you imagine the rage if that was the case?
Yeah, that'd be so
Oh
chaotic,
my God.
but
Like, I mean, this is not a Heroes of the Storm show, obviously, so we're not going to discuss the Founders Pack at great length, but I think that people would certainly be more than a little upset if you actually had to buy a Founders Pack for Heroes of the Storm, which is a sort of free-to-play game with the exception of hero purchases, microtransaction
I mean,
kind
there
of
was
model.
the Materials Charger for the Diablo.
There was, and the annual pass, as like
Right,
the whole
yeah.
annual pass thing, which was very similar in a way. But yeah, so it's definitely a pretty cool thing. But we don't have any big achievements with obviously
No.
missing mounts right now.
Yeah, we just have this data mine mount. It's just called
Mount.
But all the other mounts we've data mined have like names associated with them. So we're
Right.
like, this is the missing one. Let's keep
Yeah,
an eye
and
on
there's no real mount name that this ties into neatly. There's
Yeah.
no sort of like, we don't have a something tiger in our data mine mounts that haven't got like associations on them. So we're not really sure what's going on with this. I can definitely see some kind of Heroes of the Storm tie-in. I think when Heroes of the Storm will inevitably at some point go into open beta, so it's in closed beta right now, and maybe then we'll see. But I feel like they're coming soon. Like, the timing is weird, if that's what it
maybe
is.
it's a store mount. I know that they teased
Yeah, it could be.
previous mounts a few months before they came out.
Well,
but then
that's
again,
true.
they remember that they teased like the seesaw and some other stuff that never came
Yeah,
out.
that never appeared. You're right.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know, because I feel like it's too soon for it to be a Heroes of the Storm related reward like the Hearthsteed, because I doubt they'd do it in the Hearthsteed style before everyone can get access without having to buy a Founders Pack. So I feel like it would have to be an open beta before they did that.
Yeah.
And open beta's not going to be coming anytime soon because we've only just started closed beta.
Right, exactly.
And like the people are still buying $40 Founders Packs, so Blizzard aren't stupid. They're not going to be
Right.
like,
No,
all right, it's okay, stop the Founders Packs, let's just go to open beta. So yeah, we'll see. I sort of, my gut feeling is Stormount.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of generic, but
Yeah, it is generic, but we'll see. Maybe there'll be another refer a friend mount. Who knows? But didn't we have one that was data mined which had refer a friend on it, and then they took it off and got on?
yeah,
What was
it
which
was
map
the
was
main
that?
charger.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So that was. So we'll see. Who knows? Either way, very, very pretty. Very, very pretty kitty. I like it a great deal. So back to the more newsy things. We've actually had a really, really cool change on the PTR where shapeshift effects have now been reprioritized within the visual effects. So what does this mean? It's sort of like, yay, oh my god, news. This is really confusing. So what does this mean? It means that shapeshifted players can keep visual effects. So basically how it was before is if you consider a priority tree, like you have a Pepe on your head and your blazing wings are on your back from the Dark Moon Fair flying through rings achievement thing. You are a druid and you shift into cat form. Your cat form is a higher priority than Pepe or the blazing wings, so they disappear. And obviously,
Which is really sad.
This is really sad if you are a class that spends a lot of time shapeshifted, such as druids. I mean, to a lesser
Also
extent,
shaman,
shaman, with Ghost Wolf. Like, it's not 100% of the time. Like, if you're a shaman, you can play without being in Ghost Wolf and without going into Ghost Wolf, but it becomes such a as someone who played a shaman for many years, becomes such a reflex every time you're moving to just hit Ghost Wolf.
Yeah.
So it applies to druid forms, as Perk mentioned, also Ghost Wolf and other shapeshift forms. I mean, I guess maybe the Claws of Shivala form. Like, a Claws of Shivala giant angry man cat with a Pepe on its head just appeals to me so much.
Yeah.
I just find the idea of that
Yeah,
so
the
funny.
picture Blizzard gave of this, their example, because it is kind of confusing to explain, was a cat druid with the blazing wings and Pepe. So, we're not just picking our two favorite things and using that as an example. Blizzard has confirmed that and used those. Yeah,
for sure. So it could well mean that, other shapeshift effects, like I'm trying to struggling to kind of think, oh, maybe Warlock Metamorphosis? I'm trying to think of like gameplay level shapeshift effects, and my brain is slightly failing me this morning. But yeah, sort of the Warlock one, any other kind of combat relates to shapeshift effect. Paladin Seraphim, I suppose, doesn't really count because that's just really a glow.
I would love Druid Flight Form with a Pepe.
That would be adorable. I bet you that would work too.
Or tree form, a tree with
a tree with a Pepe. That's so appropriate. Brilliant. So yes, it does, like as Perk mentioned, Ghost Wolf works as well. But I think this is a great change. It's just so nice for druids to be able to, like, they already get the short end of the stick as far as transmog goes. Yeah, so it's really nice for them to actually have some kind of allowance for visual customization there. And maybe it's a sign of things to come where they can maybe start to work out how to apply transmog effects to druids. So fingers crossed for something. Interesting additional sort of side note to this is that they've actually disabled all all cosmetic shapeshift effects in PvP. So obviously what this means is cosmetic. So for sake of argument, like the little panda that you can get in Stormwind or Orgrimmar is the one that springs to mind, having used those in arenas myself because it's just hilarious to be a 5v5 team of pandas. So they've just killed all of those. You cannot use those in arenas or instanced PvP. Like there's nothing stopping you using them, like going around the world on a PvP server based on the testing I've done at least. Maybe that's coming, but it hasn't been implemented yet, but I would doubt it because that would be really weird.
That would just kill the toy box.
Exactly. I don't think they do that at all.
I think it's just when it matters, when there's like a rank or a reward.
Yeah, exactly. So RBGs, arenas, I was unable to conclusively tell if it had been applied to random battlegrounds. And in Ashran, it's so hard to like go in there and not get hit for long enough to be really sure that it's not just turning you out of it. So not sure at the moment on Ashran or battlegrounds, but in rated PvP, certainly disabled based on the PTR. But it's just, I think it's a good change because it just allows a little bit less trolling when it's sort of serious business PvP. And there's no reason why you would ever really need to have a cosmetic shapeshift effect in PvP. So for example, you can't be Gammon running around the arena anymore, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So moving on, every week we do news about the site. So this week we've got a really, really cool thing, and I'm super excited about this. We have implemented a method of follower tracking. So Perk, as ever, this is you and the devs who've been working your backsides off on this. Explain to us a little bit about, first up, how do you actually go about setting this up?
Okay, so if you've ever entered a contest on Wowhead, like our beta key giveaway that makes you do something in game, or you've set up toy box tracking as we explained a few weeks ago, this is exactly the same. And if you've already done that, you can just ignore this first bit. Basically, you log on to Wowhead, you go to wowhead.com/list, type in the name of the character you're interested in seeing on the left-hand side of the screen, and you'll see your Battle.net character, like their gear, their mounts, all that stuff. And if you click on the verify option, it will tell you something to do in game, so Wowhead knows that the character associated with your account is really you.
Right. And, so sort of things like unequip and equip armor, or like go to, I don't know, do something which we can track, basically.
Yeah, so basically do all that stuff. When you come back to your Wowhead page and you update it again, then it will say that you're verified. So that's a one-time thing. Like I've said, if you've done it like last week or 2 months ago, you can skip that step.
Great.
So now the next step, which you always have to do when you want to update things, and you may already be doing this, is you need to download the Wowhead client at wowhead.com/client.
So you just head over there, you've got to download there, you can install it really, really straightforwardly. And this is just a thing, like, we're not being evil and stealing your information and identity. This is just a thing that allows us to do stuff. Like, it's how we get a lot of NPC data, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing, and we ideally Blizzard would just have this in their APIs and we wouldn't have to go to this step, but because they're really popular things that users want us to track, we built in this tracking functionality in with our little lightweight add-on.
Right.
So just install that, make sure it's running in the background when you load up WoW, make sure it's not disabled or out of date, and all you have to do is like log in, stay logged in for like 5 to 10 seconds, and then go back to your page, your character page on Wowhead, and update it, and there should be a followers tab now there.
Awesome. So within the followers tab, it's a really, really cool thing. So what kind of stuff are we actually, obviously you've got a list of your followers, abilities, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we've pulled the unique abilities and traits that come with your follower, not like, hey, they may be a 5. It's like, these are the ones that your follower has. And then we have a column for counters, and we have filter options for all of like the counters and traits, so you can see how many of your followers can counter magic debuff, for example.
That's really,
So
really cool.
yeah, so that's pretty cool. We want to add more to that, but you know, it's a really cool start. You can also sort by the usual things like how many followers from the inn do I have, or you
Right.
know, what are the 3 achievement ones, and do I have those yet? Yes or no. So
Cool.
basically, it just lets you keep track of which ones you have, like how many counters you have set up, what their, you know, item level weapons and
Yeah.
armor are, what quality they are. So you can sort of plan this when you're not in game and decide like which you want to level next, or
Yeah, definitely.
you know, how many like
Plan
night
things
elves you
out.
have, all that cool stuff.
And then we've not going on from there. We've actually got mission suggestions as well.
Yeah.
So tell
This
us a
is
little bit
also
more
very
about.
cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Tell us a little bit more about what that does actually for you as a player who wants to level up some followers.
All right, so if you go to wowhead.com/missions, you can access a list of pretty much all the missions in the game. And if you visit any mission page, there will be a little calculator section underneath the basics, like, you know, this is the boss, this is what you earn. And we have an option you'll see where you can select which character's followers you want to input into the calculator, and then it will, in the button autofill, just click on that and it will suggest followers based on which ones you have for the highest possible outcome, which is really
Nice.
cool, because if you want to see like PTR missions, or you're not in game and you're like, how can I do this mission, or like how can I do something, how can I track followers on my like main and my alt, and let's see how they differ across characters, you can totally do that with the tool.
That
And
is really
you can
cool.
customize it, because if you're like, well, but like maybe I want to see what this is like if they had like 5 item levels higher, or like,
Yeah.
you know, maybe I want to have like 2 with epic mount instead, let me change it. You can see that you can edit that and it will adjust, and it will also
That's really cool.
let you choose your inactive followers as well.
Oh, that's nice. So you can see if there's someone there that you wish you could have used in
Yeah.
order to make that mission a higher success rate. That's really cool. And then this is, once you've done the follower tracking setup that we talked through a second ago, this is all sort of ready to go for you, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So if you haven't set up followers and you go to the mission page, it will be like, hey, you should set these followers up. But if you've
Yeah.
already gotten that, then it's just really simple. You know, it gives you, it's like, hey, these are the followers that you've uploaded your information for, and you know, select the character's list of followers and then hit autofill.
That's really cool, and it's you know, more good reasons to get the Wowhead client. Honestly, like it was always great before to track things, but now it enables us to do so much more for you guys and your accounts, and particularly monitoring your garrisons and all of the follower information. It's a very cool thing.
Yeah.
And obviously we've also got Foundry that's coming out this week on the 3rd, so it's now recording this again on Saturday, so it's coming out this week. We've got a ton of good guides for this, haven't we? We've got the strategy guides, which we're adding Wing 3 this weekend.
Yeah, we've got Wings 1 and 2 up, and Diani is working on Wing 3. The PTR is up for Foundry this weekend, so she's, you know, proofing all of
Working
our guides
hard.
to make sure that they're like super accurate.
Yeah, coming up with
screenshots
new
and
strategy
everything.
thoughts and like changed spell effects, that kind of thing. We've even got an awesome loot guide from Serene on the site right now. So
Yeah, because Foundry has tier 17 with like actual set bonuses, and the weapons look really cool. They're different than Heimal.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
We've got all that, you know, set bonus info, like which boss drops what. We know where the LFR bosses drop their tier from now, so
nice.
that's
That's all
to the
in
guide.
there. Yeah, a ton of really good guide information. Obviously, we're going to pull all this together. I mean, like, there's a lot of it that you can view already. So we'll obviously have this all pulled together into a convenient page for you to find everything that you need to know about Blackrock Foundry. So raid leaders, you can start planning and get everything together because the early bosses are up already. Start looking at the strategies and getting the stuff together. And obviously, as with Highmore, we have Method who will be putting together their super high-end mythic level. Oh my goodness, this is difficult guides for Blackrock Foundry as well. Obviously once they've completed progression. So yeah, a ton of cool stuff coming up to look forward to there. Anyhow, moving back on to the stuff that's been going on this week. We had some patch notes, as I mentioned, on Thursday, and there was a few sort of interesting bits in there. A lot of it we've kind of hit already because of just the other news elements of the show that we've talked about, but some of the things that we haven't actually spoken about in the show already. This one to me was maybe not a highlight as much as a low light. I was kind of annoyed by this. Well, not annoyed, sad perhaps. Quest progression in raid groups is no longer permitted. So to me, it seems like this is likely a way to stop the Apexis dailies from being quite so easy to do.
Yeah, I feel like With the Apexis dailies, they went from how do I gain rep, this is painful, to I'll just join a group and ignore all the mechanics and instantly hit 100%.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, while it was a really good, like they were pushing people really hard to use the group finder for everything, I do think it may perhaps have trivialized the Apexis dailies more than they intended it to. So good system, like maybe the implementation that they weren't quite looking for. They have mentioned that they're looking into ways to make it so that when you are in a queue for an RBG, for example, or waiting for a raid, or, you know, on a break from a raid, which is like definitely sometimes that I will end up doing a few, like trying to do a few little quests, and then
sit out for a boss.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, and I'll kick myself because I'm still in the team while I'm on my Muppet Olivia. But yeah, so it's like they're hoping to find ways where you can still do that without completely trivializing. And they sort of phrased it along the lines of something like content, which isn't meant to be that easy, but they obviously clearly mean the Apexis daily.
Yeah, I mean, like we wrote a guide to them, which you can visit on the Apexis Crystal page. I'm like, wow, this is so nuanced. Like this box is meant to give you like 2% rep, and this other guy gives 5% rep.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth to them. There's a lot of depth.
It's like, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, and it's like, well, this is interesting, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to go over to the place with the group and just sit, like, AFK follow somebody until, like, my bar fills up and I'm done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can completely understand why they've made the change, and we'll obviously link the guide that Perk's talking about in the section below in the Wowhead post so that you can see that guide. And, you know, there's a lot of ways that it's a great guide that Perk wrote, and there's a lot of ways in it to just make the Apexis dailies without the group finder a little bit less painful. And it's worth remembering also that this doesn't mean that you can't do them in a party. So if you go onto the group finder and get a 5-man, you can still get a 5-man to do them. It just means that you can't be in a 40-person group stabbing things, which is probably a good change. So moving on, rings, necks, cloaks and trinkets in the Grand will now be better suited to the character's loot spec. So the reason that they're talking about these specific items, as we know, we're sort of all getting used to the new item system now. These are the ones where if you're a healer or a tank, you get your specific stats, so your bonus armor and your spirit.
Right.
So it's no longer going to be the case that if you're going through Nagrand as a tank or a healer, you're going to get a ton of stuff with like crit on it.
Which is good because Nagrand's the highest level questing zone. And those items can proc epic, so you know it could be really. It could
be a really good starting item, definitely worth like getting the correct stats on it. And I mean for me as well, this maybe I'm sort of hopeful that maybe not for 6.1, but for latter patches perhaps, and maybe for 6.1, who knows, that this is indicative of a shift where they're actually just going through and kind of improving the loot tables, particularly for tanks and healers. Like I've certainly been frustrated by several loot spec specific drops that I've had as a tank where there is a bonus armor option. Like a bonus armor, like for example, Tectus trinkets are a really good example of this. And I actually was raging about this on Twitter because I was so annoyed by it. I got we killed heroic Tectus and I got a trinket drop and I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And I coined it, this trinket, and I was like, oh, I'm so excited. The Tectus trinket's really good. It's like best in slot and it's got so much bonus armor on it. I'm so excited. And then I realized, because the two icons for the two trinkets that drop off Tectus for DPS like are the same. Yeah, the shard and the other one. And I moused over it. And to my immense annoyance, I've been given the DPS one. And I mean, like, sure, like, tanks do use crit. So some tanks, particularly warrior tanks, do favour crit. But it's a base strength with a crit proc trinket.
Yeah, that's just not as useful.
No, I think to me that screams DPS. And like a few people sort of said to me on Twitter, oh yeah, but it's like, sometimes you can totally, crit gives you a tanking stat, so yeah, it's totally there. And I was like, okay, sure. But the other option is a bonus armor trinket. Right. Which I didn't already have. So it was just like, I'm hopeful that this change is indicative that they're actually going through and maybe having a little look again at tanking and healing gear. Because I know that a lot of friends who play healers have been frustrated by getting anything not the spirit trinkets and rings and cloaks and necks.
Like there's the Imperator Margok trinket, which is I think just int, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
how did I get this?
Yeah, exactly. And there's weird sort of itemization issues with tanks and healers. Like I know less about the healing stuff as I'm not like maining a healer this expansion, but on the tanking side at least, it's definitely the case that a lower item level trinket with bonus armor can be better than a higher item level trinket without bonus armor. So there's sort of the weird thing which is I'm doing right now with my tank where I've got this epic heroic trinket sitting in my bag, which I'm not actually using because I have a 630 lucky trinket which has bonus armor on it that's actually better for me.
That's so silly.
Yeah, it's so weird, and they shouldn't have that be the case. So I'm hopeful that this will lead into more loot table improvements. And finally, the trading post auctioneer parts in Ashran now drop off everything that drops artifact fragments. So hooray, it is easier to get your trading post auctioneer, which is fantastic
Serene
news.
wrote a really good guide about it, and people are like, this is so cool, but I don't think I'll do this right now because I'm trying to follow it and I just can't see anything drop. But it's good to know that these are the mobs scattered across Draenor that are meant to drop my stuff.
Yeah, so anything that drops artifact fragments, you can definitely get your trading post auctioneer parts from those. So that to me is a really, really fantastic change.
Yeah.
So we've also got a ton of, well, I say a ton, we've got several new toys, and the only really new one is this Gaiju Pearl, isn't it? Like, that's the only one that's not an item that was in the game already, which is an addition in the recent builds.
Yeah, it's not an actual toy box item, but it is a really cool vanity item. It is, we think it's from an elite called Deep Murloc, and it transforms you into a Murloc, and you have increased swim speed and underwater breathing. So
yeah, that's a nice
thing. It seems
thing.
very cool. It seems kind of like the Aqua Jewel from Mr. Pandaria, which again sort of gave you similar effects and a cool cosmetic look, but was not a toy because the swim speed is like a combat boost.
Right, yeah, for sure. So that's a cool thing. And fans of Yaks will be very happy to know that Brother's Harness is now a toy.
No longer a bad yak.
Yeah, no longer such a bad yak.
Spawning.
He was so naughty, but they've decided to forgive him and turn him into a toy. The Piccolo of the Flaming Fire is also a toy now. So that's nice.
They had to rework some of it so it wouldn't, you know, like it's not going to make you dance and like, you know, stand up and stop. So that they changed some of the tech, but you know, I think it's cool.
I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Totally, I think, because it just means like the advantages of things being moved into the toy box are so huge that I don't mind if they have to make some slight adjustments to how a toy works or how an item works in order to turn it into a genuine toy. There's also a really cool toy for collecting 20 music scrolls. Yeah. And it's I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's like a little stereo that you can bring with you.
Yeah, the portable audio phone, and it looks
audio
like a
phone, that's
box.
right. Yeah, I'm so annoyed at the moment because I've been trying to get this. Like, I built myself 2 Garrison jukeboxes. I've been trying to get this on the PCR and I'm on 19. I'm stuck on 19. It's like, damn it. Because
I think a lot of users have left really good comments about where they found all the toys, so I would check
you
that
can
out.
definitely.
If anyone's interested, it's a really good way to be like, oh, this is.
Yeah, the problem I've hit is that I don't have the characters I'm transferring over are all from my US account, which is my newest account. So it's only been around for a year. So on my EU account, I've got like 55, 80, like loads of champion seals, which I just never spent on anything. I was saving up for a mount. I never did it. And then like I've got a ton of the Lion's Landing points and I've got so much currency, but on the US account, I just don't have any. So it's like, oh, God damn it. I need to go farm a whole ton of stuff. So, but it's a really cool little toy. And obviously we'll be adding that to the guide to the Garrison Jukebox once I have got it. Damn it. So there's obviously also, don't forget, I should mention this here, you can track your toy box on Wowhead now. The systems that Perk was talking about earlier to track your followers also work for you to track your toy box. So don't forget that you can do that. It's a very, very cool system and basically allows you to see what toys you do and don't have, all kinds of useful information.
Yeah, like on like search results, on like item pages, on tooltips. So yeah, just pretty much all over the site you can see what toys you do and you don't have.
Yeah, it's definitely a very cool thing. And we've also got the achievement. So basically what this news item is that Perk was right. The achievement for heirloom collecting, the chauffeur chopper you get for collecting 35 heirlooms. And so it is exactly what you thought, Perk. It's a BOA little sort of chopper with a chauffeur in it.
Yeah, so the patch notes at first were made the achievement a little too hard. They were saying that you had to collect every single heirloom to get a mount, and we're like, well, but the data mine one was just for 35, and then you get this chopper, and it's chauffeured because obviously a level 1 can't drive themselves around, and it's this very dapper orc in a tuxedo and top hat.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Who's Coke Coburn, who I think is a reference to a movie. My movie references are really bad, but I think he's meant to reference Driving Miss Daisy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hopeless at the movie references too. So that's very cool. And we've got a 3D model of that if you want to have a look at it. It's on the site, so you can check it out and spin around and look at it.
Sadly, we can't preview it quite yet on the PTR, but it's also worth noting that you can easily hit 35 without things like Garrosh Heirlooms or the Stranglethorn Veil Ring. Yeah. So I think you can even just hit 35 just by buying all of the vendor ones. So it will cost you some gold, but you don't have to say, oh, I have to win this like once in a week tournament with Soul Winner to unlock this cool mount.
Yeah, it's definitely like, you know, it's you don't have to sort of spend time waiting for the Darkmoon Fair to come around and that sort of thing either. So we've also got some interesting new daily quests in the garrison for bounty coins. Like the occasional random NPCs will appear in your garrison every day, a mixture of different people. But the really interesting bit, and I know Perk's got a theory on this, so I'm going to let her explain her theory, is these occasional profession NPCs that come up. You've seen 2? Have you seen more since you put that article together?
I've seen 3, and I think Elvine has seen a different one as well. So basically, our theory is that instead of buying your like stage 4 recipes or, you know, any recipes added in 6.1 from the normal profession vendors, they've now moved them to this more sort of complicated RNG system where you can have an NPC show up that sends you to do a daily in like a dungeon or kill an elite, but you can also have 1 of 5 profession vendors. Right. And what these people do is that they have a daily that gives you a lot of primal spirits. They have an easy way to turn like trivial materials into primal spirits, but they also have recipes on them for the really cool 6.1 stuff, like upgrading your stuff to stage 4 or a new way to create materials without a daily cooldown. And you can only buy those recipes from this profession vendor who may not be for your profession and has a small chance to be there. The daily quest guy. So it might take you some time to see it.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting, so if we assume that theory is correct, it would be a very interesting sort of slightly RNG based system to getting hold of the level 4 things and also these useful items. So the profession daily cooldown, they basically allow you to do an additional daily cooldown in return for some primal spirits and some sort of incidental materials. Nothing that you wouldn't come by as part of your normal profession crafting.
And it's also, I mean, if you don't want to trade in like 50 for Savage Bloods, it's an easy way to get that. Like suppose you have like a ton of leather saved up and you're not a leather worker, you can, if the leather guy's still up, you can still go, okay, I'm gonna take 5 leather and turn these in for a primal spirit, and then with all my primal spirits I can now buy a Savage Blood that way.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's a really nice addition because Savage Blood is a bit of a pain at the moment. But yeah, interesting theory. I'm sure like Perk's theories are usually right, but this isn't confirmed. So take it with our best sort of best ideas behind it.
Like, but this is kind of too RNG, and you know, it's still the PTR, so things are subject to change. But we can confirm that they've moved them off the more sort of straightforward, traditional vendors, and they're sort of playing around with this
right now. At least this is where they are. We haven't seen a patch note or anything about this, but it certainly seems to be working that way. At least I unfortunately have not been lucky enough to log on and get any of the profession vendors yet. So yeah, however been very fortunate with selfie cameras, so swings and roundabouts, I suppose. And last up this week we have Love is in the Air starting on Monday. So there's some new stuff, and it's really good how they seem to be keeping on updating and adding to the holiday. So what have we got, Pat? We've got a pet, right? New pet?
We've got a new lovebird pet who I believe looks like the mount you can get, so that's cute. You can have like a full matching family.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
And there are 2 toys. One is an existing one, the Heartbreaker toy that you can get from the Crown Chemical encounter, and there's a new toy, a True Love Prism, that you can get from an achievement where you need 50 love rays on you at once. And we're not sure of the exact criteria, if like one person can channel a beam on you to get this toy, if you need like 50 people to channel it, but we will update the guide when we know more. But that sounds very cool, and again, there are achievements to have a certain number of rays on you, and when you get 50 rays on you, you get this toy.
That's cool.
And the final thing is that they've upgraded the loot this year, and it seems to be eye level 635 for necks. And these necks have a really cool use effect where they have an exploding heart firework when you click on it.
That's nice. For doing that. That's nice. So again, this isn't going to compete with any sort of raid gear or anything like that particularly, but it's really nice starter gear for alts who are like newer level 100s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really good. That's slightly higher than Heroic Dungeons, which is normally where that loot sort of item level falls.
Yeah, it's the same level as the Winter Veil Christmas Tree Dagger as well. So
yeah.
I know that's all consistent.
It's nice. It's certainly, like, it may be slightly less useful now than it was at Christmas with Winter Veil thing, but it's still really a nice addition, and, like, personally it takes so little time to do it. And I think, I mean, I'm assuming then there's also the ability to do the Crown Chemical Company when you're not quite level 100. Like there has been in previous years.
I would think so as well. Like, I'm speculating 99, but
I would say
we'll all see that on Monday, and
obviously
I'm really excited about the toys.
Yeah, they sound really cool.
They add something every holiday.
It's just like it's a nice addition, and it makes the holidays feel sort of refreshed. It gives you a reason to be sort of like, oh, there's a holiday coming. So I'm really happy to see that they're sort of continuing on with this after they sort of started doing it towards the tail end of Mists. So yeah, it's a good thing. And obviously there'll be the guide Perk is talking about, starts on Monday. There's some awesome new Noxie art, so keep an eye out for that.
Yes,
Noxie's been updating all of our holiday art for the guide, so keep an eye out for the great new Noxie art. So yeah, that's about us for this week. Like we said, a lot of sort of small news items, nothing world changing, but definitely check out the follower tracking on Wowhead. It's super handy, and the mission recommendations are fantastic. So that's about us. So you can follow me on Twitter on Olivia D. Grace, it's around there. You can follow Perk on Perculia, which is over there. You can follow Wowhead on Wowhead. And I suppose we ought to, like, we've been doing a bit of a bad job of saying to people they can subscribe to our channel, which I think is something that YouTubers are meant to do.
Should, because
we should subscribe to our channel, basically. Do that. It's a good thing to do. Subscribe to the channel. We do Wowhead Weekly every week, and every now and then there are additional videos of cool stuff that we found in the PTR or elsewhere, and Perk's camera's just turned off, so I'm going to go on to me for a second. We've had some weird Skype issues today, so apologies for that little grey screen there for a second with Perk. But yeah, do check us out. Do follow and subscribe to the channel, and basically we'll be back. This is probably actually the second to last show that we'll be doing from here in the UK.
Yeah.
Well, I say obviously Perk is not in the UK. Yeah, Perk isn't in the UK. That's just me. She's in New York. But yeah, this is the last show where you'll have to put up with the slightly choppy quality from Perk's. Not Perk's fault. It's my fault. It's my awful internet here in the UK. So hopefully we'll be back into a higher quality and also higher resolution rendered out shows from not next week, but the one after. And obviously live streaming again because we've missed you. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.